Good morning, afternoon, and evening. Welcome to our second Canadian Women in Identity event. Just before we get started, and I know people are slowly joining us, we're going to do some housekeeping. From a housekeeping perspective, yes, we're using WebEx. Everybody will be on mute except for the panelists or the presenters. We're going to show a video today. The video we recorded on June 5th for the Identity North Conference. In order to hear the video, you will not be able to use your phones or your headsets. You have to use computer audio. We'll also use Slido. On the Slido site, you can enter hashtag Women in Identity or WID Canada and ask your questions. Please refrain from putting comments in there. We have a survey at the end that we'll be sending to everybody for comments. Please make sure you identify yourself when you ask the question so we can follow up with you. And all our webinars are being recorded. So if you cannot hear our video, you can catch us on the YouTube channel. And with that, while we're waiting for a few more people to join before we play the video, I will pass it over to the team to talk a little bit more about us.
So just to give you a little bit about us, we formally registered about a year ago. We are a non-for-profit organization led entirely by volunteers. We now have 1,100 plus members across the world with 18 ambassadors and 4,500 followers, and we're continuing to grow. Today's event is run by the Canadian ambassador team, and this is our second major event. Our leadership team is made up of directors, advisors, executives, leadership, and country ambassadors, and we believe our team should be as diverse as the problems they are trying to solve.
Why are we here? Our mission: to inspire, elevate, and support a more diverse workforce in the digital identity industry so that we can achieve our vision, where digital identity solutions built for everyone are built by everyone.
And with that being said, we're actually going to cue the video. So Joseph, if you can start the video. And remember, even though you hear us now, if you're not on computer audio, you will not hear the audio for the video. So Joseph, play the video, and we'll get started with our Q&A after the video.
Hi, I'm Melissa Carvalho, and I'm the Canadian Ambassador for Women in Identity. I'm joined here today by my two colleagues.
Hi, I'm Nicole Landry.
I'm Shanda Jackson. I want to pause before we move on to recognize a few things before we get started. We're recording this session on June 5th, 2020. We're currently honoring both Indigenous History Month and Pride. While we believe in celebrating both these groups all year long, I think it's really great to take a second to say thank you and acknowledge the amazing culture, art, and innovation these groups bring to our society. We would also like to recognize and voice our support for the protests taking place all over the world as people march to end systemic injustice against the Black community. Please know that we stand with you.
Thanks, Shanda. I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. Women in Identity is a registered non-profit membership organization run by volunteers whose purpose is to promote parity with respect to opportunity, reward, recognition, professional mobility in relation to gender, intersectionality, race, ability, ethnicity, sexual orientation, identity, creed, age, or social status.
Women in Identity is governed by an executive board of directors, advisory team, and a leadership team. Everyone at every level within Women in Identity is working on a voluntary basis. Our teams are located across the globe. In order for Women in Identity to provide value to its members, stage events, and provide support, we rely on corporate support through sponsorship.
But Women in Identity is not only about women. Now more than ever, we need to break the biases and have a very diverse membership. I've been in identity and access management for about 20 years now, and it's really great to see that in the last number of years, identity has become the new perimeter of security. Women in identity stand by the belief that our team should be as diverse as the problems they are trying to solve.
We hear a lot about diversity these days, and it becomes even more important when we think about the digital transformation that is occurring across the globe. Digital transformation needs to start with each of us when we build these new journeys. The start of a digital transformation should always begin with the identity. When we are talking about users and customers, we are talking about humans, and humans are really diverse. When building products that support a diverse user group, having a diverse team allows effective thought leadership and provides a wider range of solutions. Diverse teams perform better and are more profitable.
We have a diverse range of users using these technologies. Different range of experience using technology, differently abled, different races, different genders. So if we're starting with the user and then building options around what type of journey you offer them, particularly around identity, we give them a choice and ensure that they understand what's going on from start to finish of their journey. Everything starts with the user. Whether you're a bank or a transportation company or a hospitality organization, you need to put your users and customers at the center of the transaction and in turn at the center of your digital transformation.
Let's pause for a second. Could anybody ever imagine that we're standing in the middle of a pandemic? I don't think anyone would have ever thought we were going to go through something like this. And yet many were left unprepared, and yet we are here today. I think what it's highlighted is the importance of identity in our digital transformation and the importance of breaking down biases. So why should you care? Maybe you're watching this video and you think, I'm not in identity, I'm not in IT, not in the digital space. Why does this really matter to me? But you're a consumer of the services that are provided, digital services. And so if you think back during the pandemic, maybe you couldn't go into the branch to do your banking and you have to use online banking. Maybe you couldn't go to the grocery store, couldn't go to the retail store, and you have to use the online grocery services. Maybe you needed government aid and had to go online to register. Or maybe, heaven forbid, you needed to go get medical services and had to go online for a virtual visit. Identity and technology matter most of all now. And in order for us to service everybody, we need to break down these biases. We need to be the change.
Today, we'd like to have a very candid discussion about identity, as we truly believe everything starts with the user. We would like to talk about biases and how it has become more pronounced and more obvious during COVID-19. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." So today, as we engage in this discussion, please understand that some of the things we might say might not be the right way of saying things, and we may reveal that we too have biases. We strive to break down our biases every day, and we believe it is only by talking and listening to others that we can expand our thinking into a more diverse and unbiased way of thinking. We believe it's important to have the discussion, as silence can never be the answer. So let's chat. Firstly, I could have never imagined something happening that would have changed or had such a massive impact on all of us and what felt like the world changed in an instant.
That's so true, Nicole. Looking back to January, I remember we were walking back to the office from a town hall and we started talking about what was happening in Wuhan, acknowledging how fast people had to act to contain the virus in every extent possible by taking what seemed like really drastic and extreme measures to lock down an area way bigger than the GTA was so surreal. I just remember it really vividly.
Yes, we all went to the bank's Chinese New Year's lunch in February. This is an event sold out even before the tickets are on sale. So I remember we were extremely excited to be able to attend this year. It was really an amazing event, and I don't think we had thought about it ourselves. But leading up to the date, we started to hear rumblings, which essentially amounted to gossip around the office.
I don't know if it was actually gossip. I remember that day. And as we started getting nearer to the event, I remember many asking, are we going to have the event? Will it be canceled? What happens if somebody went to China, went to the Wuhan region? What happens if we go to the event and we catch coronavirus? And I remember as leaders, we really had to stop the discussion and force people to think. The whole thought of it was ethnically biased. Usually our biases stem from fears, and that's what people were doing, fears and lack of knowledge. Ethnicity is one of the cornerstones of our belief in women and identity. Ethnicity is the fact or state of belonging to a social group that shares a common distinctive national, cultural, religious, or language tradition. It was ethnically biased to assume that going to a Chinese New Year event with the same colleagues we sit with day in and day out would result in us getting coronavirus just because a certain ethnicity was present. It really causes us to stop and think. And we all have biases. We're all prejudiced in some way or another. But it's how we move past that. It's how we get past that point and break down these barriers. And we can only do that and conquer these biases through our diversity.
You both know I'm always stuck in the world of academia. I was looking for some research, and I was really curious to see how the virus traveled and the human impact, kind of beyond the obvious of getting sick, and how this impacts globalization. According to the New England Journal of Medicine, public outcry can often be as detrimental as the disease itself, with the followed exploiting, and I quote, divisions of religion, race, ethnicity, class, or gender identity. Definitely check out the article, History in Crisis.
You do always say something like that. That's true.
You know, Chanda, many people might not know, but you're my senior planning manager. And so that very day when we came back from the event, we pulled Chanda aside and we started doing our business continuity planning. And one of the things that I'm very guilty of is going to the extreme. And so remember sitting down with Chanda and saying, yeah, we have a strong business continuity plan. Let's plan for the fact that the entire globe and everybody is just going to have to work from home. And it seemed far-fetched at the time, but lo and behold, it's now a reality.
I've been with RBC for 6 years in the business analysis and capability space for the Identity and Access Management program. While I've adapted to change and my role has definitely evolved over time, one thing that remains to be constant is we're constantly relaying the importance of identity.
I agree with you 100%, Nicole. And I'm sure those who are in identity and access management or have been for years are also nodding in agreement. It seems so easy to sell global cybersecurity. You see the attack, you hear about phishing attempts, so it's so easy to sell security. Yet when we try to go sell the value of identity, it becomes impossible to do, whether it be to our business or to our clients as consultants. Nicole and I are former consultants. We worked in the identity space. We went from organization to organization, and I particularly have done consulting across the globe. So we're speaking from experience when we say that many people don't value identity or the need for identity.
It was strange to see that now our business units are coming back to us to ask for more identity solutions. It was really interesting to see the use cases. Social status is another part of our vision statement. Social status is defined as a person's standing or importance in relation to other people within society. What struck me most was the use cases that came forward with respect to high net worth clients and offering specialized service for those customers.
At the same time, it was also interesting to see the flip side of that. Another set of interesting use cases focused on ability. Ability is the possession of the means or skills to do something, power or capacity to do or act, including physically, mentally, legally. We've started to engage in digital transformation discussions, particularly around how the applications and interfaces we were providing would work for those with disabilities. It demonstrated to us that one type of solution would not fit all. And it heightened the importance of ensuring we offered tailored experiences to individuals that were diverse.
I couldn't agree more. The times have been busier than ever before. Our businesses in the bank are racing to push applications out there. If I look to the retail areas, the restaurants, the grocery stores, some of them had never had an online presence. And all of a sudden, what seemed overnight, they had to provide online services to be relevant or just to keep their business operating. And if you think about how they did that, they had to gather a team of people to accelerate and deliver to the market. And the team of people they relied on were the people that they had within their existing realm of or sphere of influence. And that often meant that they had tunnel vision, something I'm very guilty of doing. If we don't have diverse teams, we're not going to offer diverse solutions. So now more than ever, it's important to have a diverse team.
Especially the services associated with age, to your point. Age is defined as the length of time a person has lived, and ageism is defined as prejudice or discrimination on the grounds of a person's age. In our branches, we had noticed that there were many seniors that had not registered for online or telephone banking. Each week, they would go into the branch to pay their bills and complete their banking. This also happens to be the same age group that was vulnerable to COVID-19. But how do you validate the identity of those who don't physically come into a branch when the technologies we have in place are not built to support that?
That's actually, I think it'll resonate with many people. Validating credentials is a really important part of identity. But that's not the only issue. We have to think, when we think of identity, we think of integrating identity solutions. We have to think about everything. We have to think about the user too and their ability. There are reasons why people don't go online, that they go into branches. If I think to my dad, for example, he loves technology. He's always on the computer. As a senior, he's always watching YouTube. He even programs. But he struggled with this. I know the other day he called me up and he was very fascinated. He saw something on YouTube and he figured out a way to program a way to convert his internet to a faster speed. He wanted to race over to do it for me, and I had to remind him of social distancing. He's always on the internet, yet he's scared of online banking. And it's because he's watched all the videos and the articles on phishing and the cyber attacks. And he was scared because he heard a story of how Bob or Susie lost their entire retirement savings online. So he didn't want to go online and register his identity. Yet during this pandemic, he had no other choice. And it caused him a state of depression. He was very reluctant to do it because he believed by registering his online identity, he would lose his retirement savings. I think the other day, Chanda, you mentioned to me something about your mother-in-law and she had a similar circumstance.
Yeah, we stayed with my mother-in-law for the first 9 weeks of the lockdown. She wanted help planning out for online banking. I was so nervous because I've never linked an existing account to online banking before. It's always been part of the initial account creation for me. And I was honestly terrified to think that if I used the incorrect link or signed up for the wrong thing, I could give away her life savings. But when I think of age now, I don't only think of seniors. So identity has taken on a whole new meaning to me. So my 5-year-old is doing online schooling as a junior kindergartner, and she has several hours of class each day that she doesn't pay attention to. And finally, I thought she was participating, but she was actually leaving class and accessing my Netflix account, which I figured out when my list of recommendations got really weird. It's because of how I created the identity and her access to the account that she was able to use my credentials to watch Netflix when she was supposed to attend class. Of course, she outsmarted me and figured out how to use something that I had for something way more fun. To remove the distractions, I had to rectify the solution by creating an email account for her and a Zoom account for my 5-year-old.
Wow. That's actually really interesting, and it's a lot of food for thought for me. It demonstrates to me my own tunnel vision. I have a teaching degree. I specialize in IT. I've done consulting. And if I went to consult one of the online schools to help them out, I would have never thought of that implication. I never thought of that use case. It definitely demonstrates to me the importance of diversity when building systems. It's not only our customers that we need to think about. It was all our employees. We have to enable the entire remote workforce of the organization in what seemed like hours. And it seems surreal. We accomplished quadrupling the remote workforce and enabling them. But it was a real challenge and something that we would have never thought of doing. You know, you guys also talked about age. We've talked about seniors. We've talked about young kids. What about the students? When the pandemic hit, we were just about to turn our intern cohort from the April to the May timeframe into our new interns and bring them on board. And we have to engage in discussions to say, do we really rescind the offers to the students? Can we even imagine doing that? I'm happy to say we didn't need to do it. We enabled all our students without them ever having to step foot in the office. But there's a lot to consider when we think about technologies and we think about identity with respect to all these biases.
So I know you've heard me complain about this before, and I don't know how I got on the email chain, but I was part of a really long string of messages where people had questions about provisioning IDs. This process is automated. An email is sent to the manager. For someone new to this side of the process, I really underestimated the amount of manual work that goes into this.
That's a really good point. When we look into automating processes, we traditionally look at how best to cater to certain areas of the bank. With COVID-19, we were really serving RBC in its entirety. We often think of diversity as being the gender, ethnicity, or ability, for example, but here we really have diversity of thought created on different experiences. It's definitely something that we need to think about for future automation.
Exactly, Nicole. Many of our automations failed. When we built the use cases for automations, we didn't think about these scenarios. We didn't think about accelerating things the way we had to accelerate things. And what mattered most was the people, not only their institutional knowledge, but the diversity of their thought. I remember having many JAD sessions where different people in the team offered their ideas, and it didn't matter what level they were. We valued those ideas to get past the fact of our failed automation. Let's switch gears for a second and talk about the social impacts of COVID related to identity. We usually have a lot of social interactions. If I think back to the commute daily on the TTC, which is our Canadian subway system for those listening around the globe, or at least our Toronto subway system, or we passed each other on the floor. We attended meetings together. We used to go for social gatherings, which, by the way, I really miss. Our daily lives are filled with many connections. I used to wish for days that I would just have silence, and if anybody knows me in the hours I work, I would long for the moment that I could just have a day of no human interaction. It teaches me I have to be careful what I wish for because I miss everyone. I miss being in the office. I miss the interactions. It's just a really interesting time.
Absolutely, Melissa. I couldn't agree more with you. I never thought about it before COVID-19, but the office was almost like an equalizer, or a great equalizer to that. Ignoring the commute, because I necessarily don't have to commute from far, we all had access to the same technology, whether it be additional monitors, faster internet, or even separate desk spaces. We're now using webcams more and more to make sure we have that additional contact and connection. But let's be honest, it is very different or feels different. Each day we're inviting people into our homes that likely never would have seen them before. One of the things we did in the month of June was celebrate Pride Month. We usually had many events to celebrate Pride. One of the areas of biases we focus on for women in identity is sexual orientation and identity. Sexual orientation/identity is a person's sexual identity in relation to the gender to which they are attracted. Predilection may include, but is not limited to, heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, pansexual, and scoliosexual.
I saw on the news that people are being rejected from giving plasma due to their sexual orientation. I can't even comprehend this. You go in to do something good, give something, and you're rejected. And who rejects you? Is it the nurse that takes the plasma? Is it the lab somewhere? And how do they know? Why does it matter? It's really scary to hear that someone who's performing an act of kindness by donating and even going out into the lab at this point in time is actually being discriminated against.
I agree, Chanda. I just heard on the news this morning that the Canadian government is thinking of allowing gay men to continue to resume giving blood. So just definitely something to think about. I think we need to shift gears again. And I really think we need to focus on other aspects of identity. But more so now, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about identity with respect to the serious events that are unfolding in the world today.
COVID-19 is a global killer. Before it hit, it was hard to realize the impact it would have on all of us. We've seen technology used in more controversial ways during this pandemic, such as using identities through phones to track where we've been. If we even look at the case of spring break, who was gathered on that beach, or what beach, or even closer to home, who was in what part. We see the benefits of using tracking data, so we have stronger contact tracing and can theoretically prevent more transmissions of this terrible virus, but it's definitely not without privacy concerns. We're not here to debate or telling anyone how to think, but we have to mention that it is something to think about.
We'd also like to recognize the situation that unfolded in the United States. While the story is not ours to tell, we want to demonstrate our support. We see the pain our friends and family have that they've been having for a long time, and we mourn with them. We stand with those that have been forced to protest for basic rights and freedom. Race bias is one of the most common biases we think of. Race is the idea that the human species is divided into distinct groups on the basis of inherited physical and behavioral differences. A race bias, or racism, as it is often referred to, is not specific to the United States. The situation in Minneapolis might be the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back, but the reason people are protesting around the world is because racism is everywhere.
Amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, there are thousands of people protesting on the streets of many cities in the United States and in Canada, following the death of George Floyd, an unarmed Black man at the hands of a police officer, while 3 others stood by and did nothing. The systemic issue has angered people across the world, especially the Black community, because this is not the first instance where a Black person was unjustly murdered. You don't need to hear the statistics on COVID-19 to know that Black people have been affected disproportionately. Everyone has a right to breathe. And under a democratic society, everyone has the right to their opinion. It's just so upsetting that people just never get it. For as much good you see in the world, you see so much bad. When we support a democratic society, it's hard to watch, in some cases, the authorities meeting the peaceful protesters with what appears to be a violent response. And in some cases, violence is felt like the only way to get a message that is so important across. And then, of course, how the violence of the protesters has become the focus and not the original racist murder by the police officer. As someone who has participated in a peaceful protest here in Canada, the messages chanted, I believe, is truly what should be the focus, as well as what occurred to start all of the protesting that is occurring across the globe. We stand in solidarity, and we want to say we push back against all acts of racism.
You know, I think back to when I was growing up and what my parents educated me on, and they taught me to respect my elders. They didn't actually teach me that my elders could harm me, or people in a position of leadership could harm me. Definitely been a learning experience throughout the years as I personally faced discrimination. I saw an article the other day about how law enforcement are using technology to track and trace a certain race during these protests. And I thought to myself, it's so important to understand when you build something, you deliver something to market, it's not only going to be used for the purpose that you intended it for, but it can be used for another purpose. Speaking of unintended purposes, I don't know if you watched the news the other day, but I watched the U.S. government tear gas the peaceful protesters just so the president could walk through them to show the Bible or hold up the Bible. If you think about another area of vision and identity of our vision, it's creed. Creed is a set of beliefs, including doctrine, religion, and opinion, which guide someone's actions. I know when I saw him holding the Bible as somebody of a religious faith, I really had to just change the channel. I thought I was just watching a bad movie. I still can't comprehend how a peaceful protest, just fighting for the basic of human rights that every person in a democratic society is entitled to, would result in the leader of that society tear gassing people to then go and hold up the Bible. The Bible, in its very nature, intended to bring people together, was used as an area or a method to divide people.
Yeah, it's definitely disheartening. Finally, there's intersectionality, which is the overlapping of various disadvantaged groups, whether it be gender, age, or sexual orientation. In this case, we've seen a terrible clash where neighborhoods housing people of color and lower-income residents in Minneapolis were targeted by malicious groups. We wish everyone impacted by these atrocities knows that our thoughts are with them.
Wait, we forgot one of the biases that most people think about when they think about women and identity, gender. Gender, which is defined as either of the two sexes, male and female, especially when considered with reference to social and cultural differences rather than biological ones. The term is also used to denote a range of identities that do not correspond to the binary male or female labels. I'm not sure if this has been happening to you over the pandemic, Chanda and Nicole, But over the last little while, I've been receiving emails and ads that either talk to me about how they can help me with my children. I don't have any children, or they can help me make meals for my family. And it seems like it's just increased over the last little while. Yet my brother, my father, my significant other, our male co-workers, they haven't received any of these emails. It was so fascinating to me as I analyzed this. Actually, not fascinating, disturbing. To think that I don't have anything in my surfing history that would result in this, yet I'm being targeted.
In Women in Identity, we're committed to diversity, to be catalysts for change, creators of opportunity, supportive and non-egotistical, accountable and responsible, and transparent and ethical.
Quoting Maya Angelou, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. We really need to be the change we want to see.
Absolutely. This pandemic has given us a very rare opportunity to shift our focus to a global reach. When we launched the first chapter, Canadian Women in Identity, back in February, so earlier this year, we were focused on bringing Canadians together. That was our goal. Yet, during this pandemic, we now have this rare opportunity to bring the globe together. We can be that change. While it might take just one person to make a difference, imagine how much more powerful it may be if we all group together to make the world a better place, to bring equality, not only in our thoughts, but in what we deliver.
Before we move into the Q&A portion of the event, we want to say thank you to our generous sponsors and thank you so much for your time today. We know you're busy and we truly appreciate the time you took to have this discussion with us. If you're interested in women in identity, reach out to any of us. We'd love to tell you more.
And just for everybody, just a reminder that our Slido hashtag is at the bottom. I see 12 questions already, so we're going to get to those in a couple of minutes. So what can you expect on our site when you get the user ID and password? You can expect to see forums. We've tried to create a job board. We've got some research projects that you can become involved in or just read up on. You can learn about upcoming events. You can catch up on technology trends. You can read one of our many writing on the site. You can network with the many members across the world. You can volunteer or share volunteer opportunities, and you can attend or speak at a conference, as well as Chanda's going to go through a series of our webinars.
Women in Identity has a series of webinars that started in May and will be going through August. There are a lot of great topics left, such as personal branding post-COVID-19,
All of these questions we will post on our forum, and other people will be able to contribute or offer a viewpoint. All right, with that being said, the first question is, how can we get more involved in women in identity? So Nicole and Chanda, I will pass it over to you.
I'll start. You can definitely reach out to myself or Chanda at our Women in Identity email, which is, mine is Nicole at womeninidentity.org. And Chanda, if you want to mention your email.
Definitely. It is Chanda, CHANDA, at womeninidentity.org. Reach out to us, and we have lots of ways to get involved, especially as we're finding new ways to operate and offer events in the new world.
Okay, great. The next question is, does Women in Identity offer technical training? So Chanda, maybe I'll pass it over to you.
Well, we do have some great webinars coming up. They may be more topic-based, but I think if people are interested in technical-based, we can definitely bring that back to the leadership community. We're working with them every day in Slack and communicating with them from all over the world. So definitely I think it's something that we can look into and that I'm sure they'd be really happy to offer people.
And I think another thing to add to that is we have our YouTube channel, and so we're slowly adding these sessions and other things, coffee chats, et cetera, that we have to the YouTube channel. And so that's another great opportunity to just learn and listen to some of that information. All right, next question. There's a lot of talk about jobs in cybersecurity, but I'm struggling to get one. Do you have any recommendations on courses or certifications I can take? Nicole, did you want to try taking that one?
I will do my best, yeah. I mean, coming from someone that generally didn't come from the background to come into cybersecurity, I feel like my avenue or my journey took a little bit of a different approach. But I think one of the key certifications is your CISSP. I think that would be something that would be something to consider if that is how you're looking to, or if cybersecurity is an industry that you're looking to become a part of. I would also say networking, get involved, network, reach out. I think, we have such a great community that everyone is kind of willing to help, willing to try to, connect people to the right people, and just to kind of engage with one another and grow each other. So I think that's an opportunity as well. I would always recommend networking to anyone that I speak to. I don't know if you ladies have anything else to add to that, but I'm sure you have some other great insights.
I guess I will add that when I go to hire, and I have a large practice, around 200 individuals who work for me, I don't actually look for certifications. I think that you can teach anything from a technology perspective, but I look for the communication skills, how they're going to gel with the team. And so it's not always to have a long list of certifications that we're looking for. It's really how they're going to work with the team. And if they already know team members and they've networked already, then that's always a great help. Okay. All right, next question. Will you have more evening events? This time slot was really difficult for me to make as I am working. So, Chanda, did you want to tackle that one? I see you nodding.
Definitely. So we will look to have more evening events too. We'll have some more morning events as well. One of the things we want to do is make sure that we can reach out to the global team. It's one of the, I'll say, advantages of being home right now is we can, network with people from around the world. So we want to make sure that we get a nice mixture of time zones so that we can accommodate everyone. For the sessions that don't work out, we will be posting things on our YouTube channels though. Also, if you want to go onto our forum, very happy to answer a lot of questions there. We're really looking forward to having more content on it from the viewers.
And I think the reason we chose this time slot is just because we knew we were going to be servicing multiple time zones, and it's a really hard thing to do to figure out what's the best time to service the world. I think the other thing that went into our factor or thinking process is there are a number of people, at least in our teams, and I'm sure this is the case all around the world, where children are finishing school, and so we really wanted this as an opportunity for them to be able to dial in and watch as well. And so that's why we did it at this time, but we'll be staggering and changing the times as well. All right, next question is from Beth Alexander. I'm a technology teacher at a girls' school. What do students need to learn that is perhaps not in the curriculum now? I don't know, Chanda or Nicole, if either of you want to take this. No?
Okay. I've got to see a lot of technical interviews when people are coming in, whether they're looking for roles as a full-time employee or a contractor, or even our co-ops that are coming in throughout the various terms in the year. And a lot of them have really great systems or applications that they've built, and they're very excited to talk about them. And then you talk about, okay, what's the security behind it? And while there are some superstars that have that, a lot of it stops right there. So it's, what does the application do? Who does it service? But not so much thinking about the security, which means you can't really launch it into the real world as readily.
So Beth, I really like this question because I have my teaching degree. And I think that my team, and I'm pretty sure the others in Women Identity, would absolutely love to be a guest speaker, especially now that we're virtual for one of your classes. But to answer your question, I think that the curriculum is missing a number of things. It's missing logic courses. I know that when I was in school, just doing programming taught me a lot of logic, if statements, else statements. It was really helpful to start even in project management or in some of the other areas. It was a good foundation, I think. So any type of programming courses are helpful. Learning some of the tools and learning them early, things like Excel or Word or some of the tools that we use, email, etiquette around that, those courses can start at a very early age for kids, and it will be used for the rest of their life. So if you think about some of those practical purposes, even if you think about cybersecurity and you think about the social media and how kids are really active in social media, things to watch out for. And so I know our cyber practice is always putting together material on being cyber aware. And so would love to get more involved if you reach out to us. All right, so that was Beth's question. The next question, I think we're going to need some help from Bill and Joseph because some of these questions are not being knocked off the Slido. So what happened to the committees mentioned at the first session? Did those get formed? I would like to participate. So when we started in February, we planned on having all these great committees. This was before the pandemic we realized the pandemic was going on. So we planned on forming a committee for girls' summer camp and offering cyber courses or identity-based courses. We planned on having a session or sessions for people who are looking to get into cybersecurity, and we planned a research project. Well, I can tell you on behalf of my team that when COVID hit, we really had to focus on our families and then on work. And since we're all volunteers for Women in Identity, it's been difficult to juggle all of those things. My practice, or my team specifically, had to enable for Royal Bank of Canada all the tokens remote access. So we quadrupled the remote access in a short period of time. And so that's what's kept us busy. But we're hoping that as we get into the summer, we're going to have more time. And so we're now going to spend our time focusing on the forums, these events, and hopefully you'll see it pick up. But we have turned down those committees for now to live with this new normal. And hopefully by next summer, we'll have enough preparation time to prepare for those. All right, next question, and I think it's for each of us. How did each of you get into identity and access management? So Nicole, did you want to start?
I had a feeling it was going to come to me first. Absolutely. So, I actually have a background in HR, and that's what I was, planning to pursue as my career. And, that kind of changed as I started actually working. I worked in a magazine industry. I got my real estate license. I was all over the board, just trying to figure out at the time where I fit, I guess, or what kind of spoke to me. I started working in a benefit consulting industry and somewhat kind of getting familiar with a consulting sort of background. And then I landed an opportunity within one of the FIs in Canada here and started in the identity space, actually. It was very manual at that time. We were looking to improve how we were doing things and how we were looking at attesting and ensuring that, least privilege was being practiced, access was accurate to the day-to-day jobs of the individuals working or performing them. And from there, I kind of excelled in my career, and it took off from there. And since then, I've been in the field of identity and access management. So, I don't want to go into too much detail, but that's pretty much the high-level synopsis of how I ended up here and, started my career, which is now, I think, about 10 plus or so years now. Yeah.
And Shanda?
I came over to identity and access management on kind of the program side. So working on documentation, audits, financials, and things like that. And it actually happened, a bit of luck out of a lifestyle change I was looking for. I was in a more technical role, and it was going really well. So we were both moving customer database, like warehouse solutions, to the cloud, as well as kind of upgrading their cloud offerings and whatnot. So very exciting work. Kind of love that part of it. Didn't love the travel. Had a 1-year-old at home, so being away for 3 weeks a month, it was just looking like a difficult existence. So came over, and it's been great. The team's really grown a lot since, which has meant there's also been a lot of opportunity to learn and grow the tech and understand the technology side here on the way. So it's great.
And for me, I had a bit of an interesting start. I was in university, and I was walking around a career fair with my friends when in the previous, so they all had all graduated, and I was doing my last year of teachers college. So I was just walking around, socializing with them, and IBM had approached me, and I think I'm going to show my age a little bit, but at the time, at least in Canada, IBM was starting a security consulting practice. So they were just starting the security consulting practice. And so they offered me a role, and I thought, well, it's always easier to go back into teaching. I'm going to lose some of my technical skills if I go into teaching first. So I decided at that time to take that job, and the rest has been history. I think I started in June. And in September, I went on my first identity course. And after going on the first course, they sent me all around North America as an expert in identity and access management. And I've been an expert ever since. Okay, so that was that question. The next question is, how can we learn more about identity-related issues mentioned? I would like to be more educated. I think we touched upon some of that. I think our website will help. I think researching it, attending more sessions like these, potentially watching this on YouTube. You usually have to verify who you're listening to, whether it be on the web or on such channels as YouTube. But I think that's the way to learn more about it. So I'll quickly answer that because I know there's a number of questions coming up and we're running out of time. The next question is, can technology help Identity Anonymous, in brackets, who want to voice out domestic violence that happens at home when we try to prioritize work and not be judged? That's a really interesting question. I don't know. I know personally, I'm not sure that I have a opinion on it at this point. This might be a really good question to add on the forum so that other people can voice and weigh in. But Chanda and Nicole, did you have anything you wanted to add on that topic?
So I have to be honest, I kind of missed that, but my dog is barking in the background. So, that's the whole thing with this virtual setup. You can't control those things. So I'm just going to let Chanda take that one.
I think if you're looking for a tool perspective, it's not something that I'm aware of right now. And, would definitely look to have the conversation in the future. At the same time, if you're looking for a help perspective, definitely feel free to email us or something like that so you don't have to feel alone.
Okay, and we'll definitely put this question on the site because I think it's a very important question that's being asked. I'm just not up to speed on all the methods and the ways in which you can speak out. The next question, what can I do as a young male professional who would like to support peer females on my team to grow their career? I don't know, Nicole, Chanda, maybe Chanda, you go first.
Definitely reach out, work with people on what you know. When you're attending networking events, for me, it's a little bit easier to attend virtually because I'm a bit shy. But, help them find industry things to look at. Once we can go back, go with them, take them, be a part of it, introduce them to people, get discussions going and help them explore to find out what they might like. I know something I like to do is, utilize my network to help the team reach out to different people because they're definitely still exploring what they want to do in the long run. And I think getting a variety of perspectives really helps that and help them see kind of what they'd like to do next. And that way you can really build on specific action items to help them grow in the direction that they choose to go.
Yeah, and I think it's important to kind of look at it not solely that, you're helping grow not to take it there, but the females on your team, but just your peer on your team or those that you're working with, generally what helped you maybe might help them, or, speaking kind of openly and candidly to kind of understand what they're looking to get involved in, and seeing whether or not you can connect the dots for them, and to the point that, Shanda made, just, helping them in the sense of, networking if that's not a strong suit, or, introducing them or connecting them to pieces of work that may interest them.
And just to add a couple more things, I think listening is always very important, and reaching out. Now that we're all virtual, many people are introverted and don't necessarily join events, come on camera, feel comfortable reaching out. So reach out to them. Try and get more people involved. I think it's always appreciated, and I don't think it matters what gender you are. I think it's important just to make sure everybody feels included. I saw a question flash by. I think the team scrolled that one off instead of this question, so I'm going to answer that question as well. It was about family members and whether or not women in identity in these events, you can only register if you're in the workforce. And the answer to that is no. Anybody can attend, anybody can join. I think you just need an email address to be able to do so. But definitely, if you have family members that are, no matter what age they are, they want to watch the YouTube videos, they want to attend the events. I know our very first Canadian events that we had, many of the individuals brought their children, people in universities attended, so it is open to all. Okay, I'm going to try and go through a couple more questions. So the next question, how do you feel about contact tracing apps that are being built and the impact on identity and privacy? Do either of you have a take on that, or do you want me to answer the question?
Well, I'll say personally, when I looked at my phone and saw the new ad to it, I was kind of thrown off. I'm not sure, personally, speaking personally, I think it's a little bit of an invasion of my privacy to some degree. And I don't remember, kind of getting any notification that it was coming. Maybe there was something sent out and I missed it, but I just remember kind of hearing that it was added. I think when you turn it on, you have to accept, I think, the conditions to it. So I'm not sure if it already is turned on or not, but I think you have to actually turn it on and accept it, so you're kind of allowing that data. But then again, I'm not sure if there already is some premise behind it that's already doing the tracing without me even turning it on. So I think there's some things that I'm unsure of and I can't necessarily speak to, but I do not feel comfortable knowing that it was just placed on my device without kind of a pre-discussion or kind of a lot of notice or kind of warning, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So I think this is a good opportunity for everyone and for our community as well. We talk about this in some of the statements we make in Women in Identity. Many of these apps are being raced to market, and all the use cases and the thoughts behind the requirements are not really there. And so this is our opportunity to make it better. There's always identity and privacy concerns. Things can be used for other purposes and not their intended purposes, as you heard us talk about in the video. And so this is our opportunity to be that change and make sure that these applications are being built with everybody's needs in mind and that are not being used for purposes that they shouldn't be used for. We are running out of time, but I saw a question by Natalia, so I'm gonna move that one up to the top. In your opinion, how important is mentorship in cyber careers? Oops, the question went away. Did you have mentors? And so the answer, I'm going to start with the answer and I'll let the other two go and catch up on that. But I definitely had mentors. They weren't formal mentors. It's funny how mentorship sometimes works. You just look up to a person, you spend more time with that individual, you get to know and learn about them a little bit more. So I think mentorship is a great way to not only learn, but network. And I know many people talk about the difference between mentorship and sponsorship. And so maybe we'll write about that on our website because there is a difference between the two. And I think as you're growing your careers, it's good to not only have mentors, but also sponsors. I don't know, Nicole or Chanda, if you had anything to add because we are running out of time.
Nope, I'll just say I've had mentors. I feel that they've been extremely valuable to myself and my career, and I strongly kind of advise, if there's somebody that you see that you look to as a mentor, definitely kind of utilize that and allow for that relationship to kind of grow and that communication to assist you in along the way. I think it's very beneficial.
One of my favorite parts of having a mentor is not necessarily the technical side, but we used to say soft skills, but the power skills that they help you develop and just how to get your message out there and be an advocate for yourself. I think there's a really strong opportunity through mentorship.
And maybe it's a good thing that on our forum we create a section for mentorship and allow people to volunteer to be mentors, or at least allow them to network. All right, and with that being said, we have 2 minutes left. So Joseph, if you want to advance to the next slide. Let's go through next steps.
What are the next steps? So join us through the Women Identity channel on July 9th for your personal brand in the post-COVID world. To see where that is, just go to womenidentity.org/webinars. We'll also be putting a recording of this session on YouTube. So if you have somebody who you think might like to see what we talked about today, definitely please feel free to share that. And then we will send out a feedback survey for those who attended. What we want to make sure to do is just keep getting feedback from the people so we're addressing what you would like to hear.
And again, we just want to thank our generous sponsors that continue to allow us to move forward with Women in Identity and help us with the many things that we're trying to accomplish. And if you are looking to get in touch with us, please reach out, contact us. We have our Twitter account, which is @WomenInIdentity, and our hashtag to find additional content that may be posted. But in addition, we have our info at womenidentity.org if you want to reach out or go directly to our website.
And I just wanted to thank, these events are not possible without the people who help us get there. So thank you, Anzilla, Joseph, Manmeet, and Nina. Your contribution to help us run this event made us look seamless, but there was a lot of work that went into it. I wanted to thank everybody for attending, and I wanted to end with this picture. This was our very first Canadian Women in Identity event. It's showcased on our website. It was before social distancing. As you can see, it's a bit of a throwback to how we all got together just before we started the event. So thank you very much, everybody, and look forward to chatting with you next time.
Thank you.